Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 422 of the Real Estate Sessions podcast. As always, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for telling a friend. I have a very different episode today. I'm not interviewing a guest, but I'm going to talk about 20 of my past guests. Yeah, so it's very subjective. I went through each season and picked a couple out that I liked a lot. And I'll just give you a quick hit on my take of the episode. So let's get this thing going. In season one, I had a lot of people help me out getting the podcast started. In fact, it was only supposed to last about 10 episodes, but I got to start with episode 5. That's Sean Carpenter. And you know Sean, if you're listening to this podcast, he's been on here quite a bit. Sean's tagline, build relationships, solve problems, have fun, is one of the best taglines I've ever heard. He's just fantastic in front of a group of people. I've seen him present 15, 20 times around the country, and he's just one of the best. So why not have Sean as my first episode from season 1? Also in season 1, I'm going to go with Paula Monthofer. She's when I knew her, she was doing a lot of stuff with the Arizona Association of Realtors out of Flagstaff. And Paula was actually my very first interview in person at the San Diego Convention Center during NAR back in 2015. Super fun. She's amazing. She has just a great story and really another great educator. That might be a theme as I kind of work through these episodes. So that's episode 16. Remember, all the links are going to be in the show notes, so don't worry about that. Season 2, I'll go with episode 58. That's Phil Sexton, another one of the people I've had on the show multiple times. He's really, first of all, a wicked sense of humor, which whenever I get on a call with Phil or doing anything with Phil, I can't stop laughing. But he's also one of the brightest people in the biz. I've known him since he was fairly young. He was probably in his 20s when I met him, early 20s, mid 20s, something like that. Just a great guy. So that's episode 58. And in season 2 as well, episode 93, Heather Elias. I mean, she's out of that Loudoun County, another blogger, real estate blogger from back in the day when I was hanging out with Jay Thompson and Nick Bastian and their blogs as well. She's also been, just a powerhouse in the Inman community. She worked for National Association of Realtors. Just a lot of great stuff. So yeah, those are back from 2016. Great. Well, let's go to season 3, episode 118, Matthew Ferrara. Once again, another person who is great in front of an audience. I was really thrilled to interview Matthew. He seems like he's always a step ahead of what's happening. He's a speaker, author, just a great guy. So that's one of my choices for season 3. Next choice is episode 141. That's Lauren Walker. Lauren, I met through Inman, and she's a copywriter. I have a thing for copywriters. I think it is unbelievable that someone can write something and get somebody to act on that writing. So I love that. And by the way, best Twitter handle ever. I'll call it a Twitter handle because it was Twitter when she put it out there. But her handle is @InsertCopy here. You copywriters know what it's all about. It's awesome. Let's move up to season 4. One of the nicest people in the industry, without a doubt, Tiffany McQuaid. She was McQuaid and Company down in Naples. She's now connected with Ryan Serhant and joined his operation. So that's fantastic, but one of the nicest, most sincere people in the biz. And she loves pizza too. We always share a slice whenever we get together. She's just fantastic. Episode 152 in season 4 was Glenn Sanford. Should need no introduction. I think everybody knows he's the founder of eXp Realty. Just an amazing guy. And I was able to interview him. This is back roughly 2017-ish. And my favorite story from that episode is when he was selling Kirby vacuums door to door while I think it was in school in Oklahoma. And we'll call it attempting to sell because I don't think he ever sold one. And if you have to talk to Glenn about it, I'm sure he would vouch for that. So that's episode 152. So we move on, season 5. Got a couple, I mean, I have an extra one in here, but I'll start with episode 219. That's Mark Davison. So one of the co-founders of 1000 Watt. He and Brian Boero worked together at Inman News. That's where they met. And then they decided, it was probably 10 years after they met to start up 1000 Watt. But Mark's interview and the story is amazing because he came out of a career in music management, like managing bands and things, and just a phenomenal guy. A lot of fun. So episode 219. Episode 244 is Jessica Sweezy. And here I am. I'm back with 1000 Watt right away. but she's part of that powerhouse team that Brian and Mark put together. She's been there a long time at 1000 Watt, another copywriter. And as I mentioned before, copywriters rock. So Jessica's, it's a great interview. And whenever I say great interview, I mean because of the person I interview, not me. I just do very little and they get to share their stories. Episode 250, which was kind of a milestone. It's actually Stefan Swanepoel. So the T360 founder, everybody's hopefully seen Stefan do a presentation, whether it was he did some things at Inman with Brad, but obviously it's his T360 events that are just unbelievable. He's also stepped away. It's now, Jack Miller is the CEO, but Stefan's always around and super excited that I got a chance to interview him. And one of my longest interviews is well over an hour, but Stefan had some great things to share. So throwing that one out there. Let's go to season 6. Once again, the bloggers kind of have me, but Inez Hegedus Garcia had this blog called Miamiism. She still does, which is just amazing. So she's out of Miami and that whole South Florida market, just knows everything there is to know about down there. Also a huge mojito fan. So if you're a fan of mojitos and you're in Miami, look up Inez. You definitely want to do that. And then I've got episode 301, which is Shelley Zavitz. I remember Wendy Thatcher told me, she's a sales rep for Chicago Title Portland, said, "Oh, you got to talk to Shelley. She's got this book. You really will like her." And it is one of my favorite books in the real estate space. Your first 365 days in real estate. Shelley has a wicked, biting sense of humor that comes through in the book. I really like it. She wrote a second book, Marketing That Moves People. She's the founder of New Agent 365 and On Track Agent. She's still selling real estate, but doing these amazing things, building platforms, writing books. I mean, she's just fantastic. And I love Shelley. She's great. So let's go to season 7, episode 184, Joe Rand. Look, I did a lot of stuff with Joe Rand in the past on the podcast, but when the very first time I chatted with him, I didn't really know him that well. He didn't know me that well, but he is an incredible MC at conferences. I've seen him do it at Inman. It's just fantastic. He's written 3 books. I mean, he's just killing it there. So How to Be a Great Real Estate Agent is such a great book for the beginner because it really explains what's going on. So I think you got to make sure you're checking that out. And he's also, we did a lot of things in our Randing and Raving series, 20 podcast episodes where I would have someone call in and say to Joe or have a question for Joe, and Joe would have to take a side on that question. And inevitably, he would rant about it a lot. So Randing and Raving is one of the little side hustles that is inside the real estate sessions if you want to check that out. But the very first time I talked to Joe, it's episode 184. Season 8, let's see, I'll start here with episode 329 was Katie Kosov. Another connection through Inman. She's a host of many the Inman Connects, especially during the pandemic. Katie got to be friends with a lot of people because she was always there for all those Zooms that had to be done instead of anything in person. She's out of Texas. She's got an incredible Instagram account. Go follow that. Be really ready to laugh. I just think it's fantastic. Episode 352, Veronica Figueroa, an icon in the industry, a dominant presence in Florida. She's just amazing, built this incredible network and team. So you're looking for someone who's taken it from the ground up. You want to connect with episode 352 and listen to what Veronica Figueroa has to say. Almost done here. Season 9, episode 370, Sharon Srivatsa. Everybody knows Sharon. He was up till just a couple months ago with Real, and just a fascinating story. His backstory on how he got to the U.S., right? How he had to pick a sport that he could play well enough to get a scholarship in the U.S., and the sport he chose was tennis. So that's just the beginning of the stories. I mean, it's fantastic. And then when you start talking strategy with Sharon in the episode, he just unloads a lot of value to people that are interested in what he's doing. So I think it's another great episode, incredible guest, episode 370, Sharon Srivatsa. And then episode 363, Danny Vanderbo. I've known her for a long time because I was a minor contributor to Inman for a little while, but she's been there over a decade now, maybe a little bit longer than that. And she's, done some really cool things. She had her Realty column, we'll call it, and some other things in there, and just a unique personal journey that's marked by resilience. And I think just a fantastic person. So look for Danny Vanderbo, and that's going to be episode 363. It's on your notes. And then the final season 10, the first guest for me there on episode 400 is John Bjorley. Now, not in the industry, a great friend of mine for 25 years. He's struggling with terminal cancer, and his Die Happy tour, as he moved through that journey, is a case study in deciding how you want to live your life. And I have copious notes from the last 25 years and my time with John, and in the process of putting together a book. I have a title for the book that I'm writing for John. It's called The Die Happy Tour, a memoir of friendship and farewell. So this is John sharing his story on the podcast. This is really something that I think everyone should listen to, because a very, very, very brave, very smart, very funny friend. And then finally, the last one in this mix is going to be episode 421 with Brian Boero. Yes, I know it's last week's episode, but I've been trying to get Brian Boero, find the time to make this work for years and years and years. So it's not recency bias that I have Brian on here. It's because it's Brian Boero, co-founder and CEO of 1000 Watt, and just getting the backstory, meeting Mark for the first time and putting together what they've put together is just fantastic. I think 1000 Watt, what they do is art, right? It's also brilliant. So I think it's something I know I've had 3 people from the 1000 Watt team in my list of 21, but I think it's valuable. I think it's important. So that's it. That's really what I wanted to do, is just kind of give you my quick hit on these things. Please go to the show notes, pick out 1 or 2, go check it out. If you have any thoughts or anything, please let me know. Always reach out. I love it when someone reaches out on an episode. So thanks so much for checking in with me today, and we will be back next week. Cheers.